it'll end in the game unlocking casual mode for you as it quietly chuckles at your failed attempts to progress.
But luckily, the guys at Playground Games gave us a rewind button to correct our driving
Some
mistakes.
RPGs this is true, however Path of Exile is different in that all 7 character classes use the same skill tree.
Hello and welcome to Worldwide Gaming. I'm your host Ryan, and today we have an episode so jam-packed with Jarryd's review of Rampage Knights, Corey's WG 101 on Forza Horizon 2, and Brodie's WG 101 on Path of Exile. We almost couldn't fit it into one episode. Let's get straight to it with the forecast.
Seasons After Fall is an upcoming 2D puzzle platformer. You play as a wild fox with the ability to manipulate the current season in the forest, affecting the world around you. It is releasing next year for PC. This upcoming isometric RPG is taking cues from games like Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age, allowing players to pause combat and issue commands to their party. Inspired by French comic books and other stylized games like Bastion, Masquerada looks stunning. It is coming to PC in early 2016. Marketed as a rhythm violence game, Thumper has players riding along a track, dodging obstacles and killing enemies, as they make their way towards a giant head from the future. The game is coming to PS4 and PC in 2016.
Do you yearn for the brawlers of old? Created by Czech developer Rakin Grass, Rampage Knights is a game steeped in humour and wears its very obvious influences proudly. It's also ludicrously large amounts of fun, especially when playing with a friend. The setup for the story is about as thin as it gets. You set up camp, start a fire, and a demon springs forth to school you and steals all of your worldly possessions for good measure. Now you're trapped in a forest with some strange people around, and the only way out seems to be in the direction of a sign that proclaims, "Dark Castle, this way." While the broad strokes of the story sound kind of dull, there's actually a great deal of humour in Rampage Knights, and the intro is a good taste of things to come. If you're looking for a deep and meaningful story, this is absolutely not the title for you. Gameplay in Rampage Knights is a hybrid of the good old beat-em-up genre, mixed with some roguelite elements that change things up each time you play through. You traverse through a randomly generated world with environments running the usual forest to castles and beyond. Oh, and you'll introduce a lot of things to your boots while you're at it. There's a mixture of very obvious influences here, with the game making good use of the action of traditional titles like Streets of Rage and Golden Axe, with a healthy dose of the likes of Binding of Isaac thrown in for good measure. Between the unlockable classes and the seemingly endless range of weapon and spell combinations, the game never really feels lacking in the variety department. The items in this game are a real treat, as you'll never be really sure what's going to happen, from a potion to make you the butt of all jokes, to weapons that will bring vengeance from on high. Everything goes hand in hand with the game's sense of humour, and it's a great motivator to try something new, just to see what might happen. Combat is simple, but also ridiculous fun. There's not a lot of things to remember, but it's not just about mashing buttons as quickly as you can. You can certainly try that approach, but I can guarantee it'll end in the game unlocking casual mode for you, as it quietly chuckles at your failed attempts to progress. While the combat is frenetic, it rewards the player who carefully applies techniques like dodging and uses combos designed to strip an enemy's defenses. There's also a lockpicking minigame for opening chests, which feels a little off, and it punishes you by stripping off a good chunk of your health if you accidentally touch one of the spikes inside the lock. I'm not really sure why that seemed like a good idea, but it's there nonetheless. Rampage Knights has a difficulty curve like a brick wall. Even on casual mode, you'll find yourself prancing around having a swell time until the game suddenly decides, nope, and from there on the game pretty much becomes Dark Souls. The one saving grace of the embarrassingly named casual mode is that it does take pity on you when you die, allowing you to retry the level rather than booting you back to the start of the game. Room layouts don't change when you respawn, but the type and amount of enemies do. So while you think you might have it down this attempt, the game will probably decide that, you know what, this time I want you to have a giant chicken man to fight as well, because reasons. I'm generally not a masochist when it comes to games, but I couldn't help coming back again and again. Given the difficult nature of the game, it's also difficult to predict how much time you'll get out of this title. In terms of levels, there's not a lot here, and if you're particularly good or you've got a friend to play with, things will progress much more quickly. However, there are definite moments where you'll make progress, die, repeat an area again and again until you get good or lucky enough to progress, and then repeat that process over again. There's also incentive to replay the game to complete challenges, which are in turn linked to the unlocking of new character classes that will change your gameplay experience. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the comparatively short length of the campaign is actually a positive for this title, as you'll usually be progressing something, if not the campaign itself. Much like the items, during your first playthrough or few of Rampage Knights, you'll have no idea what you're getting into when a new enemy shows up on screen, and some of them are pretty unique to say the least. For the most part though, they're more or less palette swaps, and you'll only occasionally encounter something that has a new or interesting ability. There's hordes of regulars that will come after you with melee or ranged attacks, though there is a variety of looks that are randomised room to room, which keeps things from getting too stale. The aesthetic for Rampage Knights is like the bizarre love child of Castle Crash's comical look, tied together with Steve Jackson's Munchkin card game. It's quite unique, and I like the fact that it has avoided the retro look of some other recent additions to the genre. You're also able to change the look of your character a little, with a bunch of different faces and silly hats for you to try out. How your character looks has no bearing on how the game plays, but who doesn't want to wade through hordes of demons wearing a dapper hat? Rampage Knights features sound. It's really all I can say about it. It's not bad, and it's completely functional, but instantly forgettable. Except perhaps for the hilarity of chickens clucking angrily as they charge after you with giant clubs. Yep, that's a thing. I wasn't kidding before. Co-op is pretty much the sole reason I was able to beat Rampage Knights in a timely manner, and it's easily the best feature of the game too. You get to see a lot more item combinations between the two of you, which is nice, but you better be prepared to cop some punishment from your partner, intentional or otherwise. While you can't physically damage each other, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from accidentally punting your friend into an abyss, or picking him up and throwing him onto a pit of spikes. The whole experience will leave your neighbours wondering if they should be calling the police as you scream and shout accusations of treachery at each other over mic. Rampage Knights is a title I find easy to recommend if you're able to overlook the steep difficulty curve. The sense of humour and amount of weapon and item combinations are more than enough to get you through the grind, and it's also great with a friend.